Welcome to another exciting episode of Business Bourbon and Cigars. I'm your host, Scott Joseph, and today we're diving into one of the most, transformative topics in today's business world. How do we use technology to solve real-world challenges? AI to tech-driven platforms, they're really changing the way we interact, solve problems, and create value in today's fast-paced environment. And it's happening quick. And to guide us through this fascinating topic, we have none other than Jason Sherman. Jason is a very successful innovator, award-winning filmmaker. We're going to dive into that a little bit because I don't know how in the heck you go from that to where you're at now. The tech startup expert, and he's the CEO of Spinnr and Vengo AI. So Jason's entrepreneurial journey has been featured in major media outlets like the Wall Street Journal, USA Today. And today he's going to share insights into how you can use tech-driven solutions to help you tackle some of the most pressing challenges that we face. So before we dive in, if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to Me Plus Ultra at meplusultra.com, and make sure you check out and subscribe to Me Plus Ultra Network on YouTube. That way, you're up to speed and you don't miss any of the incredible interviews and actionable strategies that you can apply to your business today. So let's dive in. Let's get started. Jason, welcome to Business Bourbon and Cigars. Yeah.
Thanks,
glad
man.
you're here.
I don't have any bourbon or cigars, but I got some hot tea. Hope that works.
So it's funny you say that because in person, when we do in-person interviews, it's a lot easier to do the bourbon and cigars. The office isn't going to like it if I light up a cigar, right here. But
if I were there, I would do it with you for sure.
And a lot of people don't. We're recording this at 10:30 a.m., so we're not going to fire back a bourbon today. But
right.
Do you drink bourbon?
I would. I mean, I'd have some. I'm more of like a beer or wine drinker, but I'm open to trying new spirits.
Yeah. So we've got a leadership retreat called by the same name, Business Bourbon and Cigars. And in fact, we just had it here in Louisville. And a lot of times you're probably the norm of our attendee. And then we eventually get them on, we do the business part. And
right.
The second half of the day, we do some excursions and activities. A lot of times they'll involve, bourbon trail, distillery tours, things like that, some tastings, usually some rare stuff. We convert them. We convert
awesome.
Everybody. So we'll get you here for one of them.
Sounds
all right,
good.
So let's get in. Let's get down. As I mentioned in our intro, pretty diverse career, right?
I sure have.
And how do you go from filmmaking to launching tech startups? That just doesn't seem like the normal path. So walk us through kind of a quick overview of your journey and what led you to where you're at today.
Yeah, man, I agree. It's not normal. I don't know many people like me. If I do happen to come across someone like me, I'm like, oh, there is another unicorn out in the wild. So it's nice to see someone like that once in a while. But you're right. I'm kind of like alone in this kind of world of tech and film, and not only that, but music and writing as well, because I've done a little bit of each. And I guess it's just how my life turned out. Growing up, I was in a very artistic musical household. My grandfather ran a movie theater. My dad was a music teacher. My brother and I played classical violin. We were kind of immersed and, pushed into this world of like art and music and film and technology. I was working on a Commodore 64 when I was 8 years old, and then a Macintosh computer. My dad got me the Apple II. So like I was always doing each of these things, and I guess I just never chose one, right? I chose all of them.
Yeah.
When you grow up in a household where you have to practice the violin after you work on a computer program, then you go hang out with your grandfather in the movie theater and watch Return of the Jedi on the big screen in 1983. That's what your life becomes. So I think over time, I didn't do all of them at the same time. I would definitely stick to like technology out of college, but I was doing music in college. Then out of college, I said, well, I'm kind of getting bored of this technology thing, this IT corporate thing. What else can I do? And I tapped into like my memories. Okay, I like film. I like movies. Let me start working on maybe writing a screenplay, making a movie. And I did, and I learned it, and I bought equipment, and I figured it out. When it comes to writing, I've always been a writer. So learning how to write screenplays and writing novels was definitely part of my upbringing. And then becoming a journalist for several years, I was like, well, I didn't want to be a journalist. Like I was writing my own articles, taking good photography because I was a good photographer. And then it's very rare to find a journalist who can take good pictures.
Yeah.
They always have to bring a photographer on staff to go meet the journalist somewhere to take the pictures. I happen to be doing both, and it caught notice of a couple of publications in Philly, and that's where I was doing all this. And they said, "Hey, why don't you just write for us and take the pictures and do the videos?" And I said, "It sounds good to me." And then that's how I became a journalist. So some of these things kind of fell into my lap, right? But now, yeah, you're right. I now I do all of them, and I've been doing them for decades. So I just know how to do each thing really well. Thanks to my great team that I have backing me up. Can't do it by yourself. But you're right. It's definitely not normal, and I'm going to be doing this forever for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Someone asked me the other day, they asked me, what is the one thing I wish I would have learned or picked up, or I
Yeah.
forget how they phrased the question. And I wrote down, because they were asking me to be a guest on their podcast, actually. And so it was one of their, information they're trying to get it from me.
Right.
And I said, I wish I would have learned to either play harmonica, the guitar, or the piano.
Yeah.
And I chose those three because, I grew up playing sports, and the only sport I'm able to play now is golf. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not that good. I didn't have to play when I was young because I haven't really improved much.
What's your handicap?
14. It's not good.
That's okay.
I can get around with everybody and not upset everyone. Unless I'm playing bad, but every now and then a good round. But the reason I said music is because that never leaves you.
Yeah.
And there's so many times, like whether we travel a lot, and so I'd have loved to have just every now and then pull out a harmonica or maybe a little guitar, something like that. Piano works that way too, right?
Yeah.
Drums, not so much. Not everybody wants to listen to you pound on drums, but everyone will listen to a piano, guitar, or a harmonica at times. So
it's funny. It's funny you say that because like I always feel like the guitar would have been the right move for me too, because you're right. When you have a guitar, right, you can carry it around everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And you can pull it out, and everybody wants to sit around in a circle, and they want
Yeah.
to sing the songs along with you, and it kind of makes this community thing. Harmonica is kind of an additive piece to it, and then the piano is too hard to bring around with you, but they usually have them at like hotels and things like that, so you might find them around.
Yep.
But I learned the violin, and it's not the kind of thing you just pull out and start fiddling around. It's just not, right? I do it, but it's not.
Man, I go to Nashville. 3 times,
Yeah, they got
about 3 or 4
fiddles out
times a
there.
year. I'd love to take a violin down there, or another fiddle.
But the guitar, you're right about that. The guitar, like I totally wish I had learned that. I told my dad, who's a pianist, I said, "Why didn't you teach me the piano instead of the violin?" And he's like, "You didn't want to learn when you were a kid. We taught you the violin." But anyway, like now I learned piano on my own, getting pretty good at it. My aunt plays the guitar; she's really good at it. So like I just have to like accept it. And sure, I could learn the guitar, but brother, it's hard. I tried.
Oh,
The
yeah.
guitar is a tough instrument, so you got a challenge there for you.
Real quick before we get into this AI, when did you really start paying attention? I feel like the average person out there within the last 2 years has really started using it
Yeah.
on an everyday basis. But to really be able to go into it deeper than that, I'm sure it started sooner for you. When did you really start paying attention and applying it?
It's a good question. And I wrote an article about 10 years ago that was published in a magazine called Hacker Quarterly. And I talked about AI a bit in that article. And that's, I guess, the beginning of when I started to realize that this could become a thing. I've been really reading a lot about Raymond Kurzweil's, philosophies about the singularity. And I was always following where AI was, but it was always out of reach, right? You know, we saw Watson, IBM Watson's on Jeopardy, so we knew it was like available to like the elite few.
Yeah.
And we knew that AI was being used in a lot of the tools that we were using on like our iPhones and whatnot, but again, not accessible. So when I started really looking into AI was when I saw Replica, which like an app that came out. I'm like, okay, somebody made an app that you can talk to an AI persona. Great. Tried it out. Wasn't really impressed. It was, you know, I just wasn't impressed. And this was years ago, you know. I added AI to Spinnr in 2022. Like you mentioned, ChatGPT came out. It kind of just opened the floodgates to AI.
Yeah.
And just a few weeks after it launched, I told my developers, we got to put this into our app. So we put ChatGPT into Spinnr as a community AI that everybody could talk to, not just one-on-one. Everybody could talk to, navigate the app, meet new friends, learn about topics, play games. It was so much fun that everybody was using it and saying, like, how can I get this but customize it for my own, you know, my own conversations? And we did that kind of for them by giving them a DM with our Spinny, which is what we called it, Spinny instead of Spinnr. And it just still wasn't really what they wanted. They wanted to really customize an AI that would really be their friend. And that's where Vengo AI came in. We found that we had to build a separate product because it was just too big. And the infrastructure that we had built Spinnr on wouldn't handle the AI. So we had to go onto like Microsoft Azure, NVIDIA, OpenAI, et cetera, and tap into a bunch of resources. They gave us a bunch of grants. When they gave us those grants, that allowed us, because we gave them demo videos of what we built, prototypes, and they were like, yeah, this is useful in society. Let's give you some resources. That was like, okay, now we can build this thing. So we spent the better half of the beginning of 2024 building it and launching it to the public. We did some beta testing, and we found once again, and this is probably the highlight of this entire interview, is going to be how to iterate, how to adapt, how to listen to customer feedback, how to validate your concept, and how to go to market properly. So we thought we had this great product, right? This AI customization for people. They tried the consumer web app. They could sell their AI on the marketplace. They can earn a revenue from it. So, you know, you have lots of content, right? So you can make your AI and you can sell it to your fans and followers. But what we found is people in general, the ones who wanted to use this, they don't have a lot of content. They're not influencers. They're not, you know, podcasters. They're not authors. They're just people, you know, with hobbies. So we found after using this for about 2 months with them that it just wasn't going to work in that market. But during that process, we found a couple of business owners that were saying, we need something like that to talk to our customers. Bingo. We found our market. So we started diving into that. We started talking to the business owners that we knew in our private circles, friends and family, the kitchen designer, the fashion designer, the author, the guy who owns the financing capital company, you know, and so on and so forth. And we found out that an insurance broker, all these people were like, yeah, I got 1,000 inquiries from customers all day long, and I cannot answer these questions. It's too much. It's too repetitive, and I'm losing sales.
Yeah.
So we built the system around their needs and found that that's where our niche was. And that's what we've built.
You know, I love that you brought that up because, gosh, one of the things that separates companies that grow and thrive compared to the ones that don't make it is I feel like a lot of business owners get married just to their initial idea. This is my product. This is the service we're going to provide. This is how we're going to do it. And then they launch and things start happening, and the good ones are always paying attention. What's working, what's not, what are clients really saying? And you just described it perfectly. You're like, this is what they really want. So we're just going to pivot there. And it's easier to pivot at the beginning.
Big time.
I don't understand why everybody just doesn't follow that model.
They should. And I mean, it's what's in my book and my course and my podcast. Everything I've ever done, it's always been about iteration, right? And the reason I say that is you might have a great idea, but you can't make your decisions based on your ideas. I'm a
Yeah,
data-driven decision kind of guy. So like I see the data, I see what's out there. What I love about data is it doesn't lie,
that's right.
right? People can lie, your brain can lie to you, your heart can lie to you. People can tell you, falsehoods, but the truth is in the data. So you take that data, you take it what people are saying, the correlation, the trends, and that's where you should formulate your theories and your products.
The market is always smarter than our own gut intuition. It votes,
100%.
and it's the only vote that matters, right? It votes with its time and its money, and so
100%.
you got to pay attention to that. So a lot of fear around AI in the sense that, and I don't get it. I like for in my businesses, I want every employee using AI
Yeah,
because they get their work done better, higher quality, and faster. They're more efficient, more productive, right?
million percent.
So let's talk about a little bit. Let's get on this topic about people who are a little bit unsure, especially as it relates to the human interaction of it. How do you see AI evolving over the next 5-10 years?
Well, the first thing you have to think about, and you just said it a minute ago, is like I want people to use it. They would be more productive, but the fact is, not a lot of people are using it, right? The few of us in the technology industry, or the people who are willing to try something new, I could easily say, for example, if you go back to email, or the internet or smartphones, how long did it take people to get over to that technology? When it comes to smartphones in particular, like iPhones, I can't tell you how many people I knew for at least the first 5 to 10 years of iPhones that would just not get away from their flip phone. They just wouldn't get away from it. They were stuck with the flip phone. They didn't want to use
Or
the
the
iPhone
BlackBerry?
or the BlackBerry. Great
Yeah,
example, right?
yeah,
People just didn't want to give up those keys. And I was one of the first people in line to get the first iPhone, so I'm always an early adopter. I was like a beta tester for Gmail, for God's sakes. So, I'm always trying the new technology. So with AI, I'm like, I was on a vacation in Paris with my girlfriend using ChatGPT the first week it came out.
that's
And she's like,
awesome.
what the heck is that thing? Oh, it's making our itinerary for tomorrow to walk
Yeah,
around Paris. So like, that's what it was doing for me on week one. So um I feel like people need to know how powerful it is. And I think the answer to your question really is, how long will it take people to be willing to try a chat GPT, a Gemini, a Claude, a Llama, a Perplexity, any one of the millions of AIs out there, just opening it up and trying it? B, when will they get good at prompt engineering? Because that's part of the deal, is you need to learn how to actually talk and work with an AI. And
right.
three, how and when will they implement it in their daily lives, their work routines? These are the three questions that I always wonder, is how long will it take for all those things to happen? And over the next 5-10 years, I'm assuming the percentage is going to go from like 1% of the world using it to maybe 10, 20, 50% of the world. I mean, we don't really
Yeah,
know how many people, right? But that's really what has to happen. And it's going to happen. I mean, everybody uses the internet today. Everybody uses a smartphone today. So we
yep.
know eventually everybody's going to be using AI, right? So eventually that's going to get to that point. But like you said, 5 to 10 years, evolving into personal assistance, right? I'm using the new voice mode on ChatGPT. I was literally, as my assistant, I was showing my dad. He's like, "Wait, is that a real person?" I'm like, "No, no, no, it's an AI." When I'm using my Vengo AI, right, my own, the one I built, my team no longer talks to me. I swear to God, my team no longer talks to me anymore when they ask me questions about anything to do with interviews or work or marketing or anything. They talk to my AI. The answers they get are the same answers that I would have given.
That's
So
awesome.
like right then and there, I mean, there you have it.
So we've got an AI tool that we put on our website. Now I've got to front load it to make it, because it's only going to be as smart as the information that it
Right.
knows or has, right? And so, for instance, if people want to get to the basics and they're on this podcast episode on movecrushcount.com, right? Let's just say they're
Right.
there. They can go into our AI tool and say, what am I? we're going to have our show description, but they can say, I do this. What am I really, how is this show going to benefit me? And it'll, it'll spit
Yeah.
it out. So they can get right to the basics of it, right? And then they could even ask it at what point in this show can I go to? So if someone doesn't want to watch the whole hour, right? Because we record close to, usually 45 minutes to an hour. They can get the highlights. They can watch
Yeah.
the whole
Summaries.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Highlights and summaries. I mean, one of the things I do, it's funny you said that. Where can people don't know how to use AI? And I'm like, well, look, if you don't want to read a 5-page article on about a topic that you're learning, copy paste it into ChatGPT, say, hey, give me the 5 highlights of this article, or what are the most important key factors. It'll say, well, it's, oil prices are high because of this, the dollar is going down because of that, Bitcoin is soaring because of this, and then boom, 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 boom. I'm like, okay, well, now I understand what the hell all that technical jargon was. Or
yeah,
even, a lot of times I want to know, like I hear a fact somewhere, or I'm reading something somewhere, or I'm learning about something, or I'm going to go to a concert, and I want to now know the history about that topic. And
yeah.
it tells me the whole history about that topic, and it's like, sure, I could search for it, but then I got to go through a million articles and I got to try to find the right information.
Which
I
one's the
mean,
most relevant? Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
80% efficiency. I mean, you're saving 80% of your time, and you're getting all that time. So let's say you spend 8 hours a day working, you can really spend 2 hours a day working and let it do the other 6 hours for you. It's really how it works. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
You
really
brought
what it
up
is.
you brought up the one thing, on a scale from 1 to 10 with AI, I would put my knowledge 3 to 4, right? But I feel like my prompting skills are 7 to 10
Right.
because I'm not like, that's how I'm using it. That's how I'm benefiting, right? And
That's
so,
smart.
yeah, it's now how I organize it, it's just okay. But how I get the information I want, and like I don't have to go back and forth with it a lot to get
Right.
the information I want because my prompts are usually good. And
Good to
so
go. Yeah.
I'm curious, do you offer like those cheat sheets or anything like that with the prompting?
It's funny. So when this is 2 years ago, right? I got
Yeah.
really good, and this is before ChatGPT came out. I was using Midjourney, and
Yep.
I was doing
I use Midjourney.
storyboarding for, yeah,
Yep.
I was doing storyboarding for some screenplays, which is very powerful. I was never able to do that before. And then I was doing Runway ML for some videos. So I was kind of already using these AI technologies, and I was thoroughly impressed. And those prompts are way more difficult than ChatGPT because you're just talking really.
I use
So I
ChatGPT to tell
to
me
give you the
how to
yeah.
give me the prompt for Midjourney. Yep.
Eventually, we were able to do that, right? But
Yep.
at first, I was using it like a year before ChatGPT came out, or maybe even 2 years before that. I think when it came out. But the point is I did have Word documents, Google Docs filled with prompts I can copy paste, so I wouldn't have to keep doing it over and over again. And then I just shared it with my team and say, "Here you go, guys. Here are the ones that have been working really well for me," because they really didn't know how to do it, and they were giving me really bad results. In the beginning, they were like, "Here's our result." I'm like, "Guys," and then you're not doing it right, and they're like, "Well, we don't know how to do it." And so I gave them my cheat sheet, like you said, and just like a light switch, the results were coming in. They were magical. And it was just like exactly what I needed. And I don't have to help them anymore. Like I
Yeah.
stopped helping them like a year ago.
Yeah. No,
It's
that's
pretty
awesome.
amazing.
That's how I learned. Whether it's through Instagram or X or something like that, you see these cheat sheets out there, all these different
Yeah.
prompts,
Yep.
and one prompt for me can turn into 5 or 6, and I can just
Hmm.
tweak them because they give, oh, that's how I need to ask this. And you should be smart enough to figure out why they're asking it a certain way, especially if you read a certain, you know, thing there. And man, I have them. I cut and paste them. I
Yeah.
literally have my set prompts that I go to for specific things, and then I guess tweak them to be more specific to what I'm looking for at the moment.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that people probably don't even know about, or they might have heard about it, but they're not sure. And it's kind of the next level, right? Is I stopped doing all the prompting again a pretty long time ago. I'd say probably about a year ago when I just started creating my own GPTs. And when I started creating my own GPTs, one for like legal work, one for writing, one for film scripts, one for technology, one for coding, one for graphic design, like literally made one for each possible thing that I work on. And now I don't have to prompt it anymore. I taught it from a repository of content or repository of information. Here's what I need. Here's what I'm looking for. And then I gave it like 4 or 5 questions that I can just click on the one that I need, and then it just automatically asks for my stuff. I say that's what I need, and then boom, it spits it out. I don't have to prompt anymore. And it just, once I created GPTs, that was when the game changed, and it just even saved that much more time. Because now when I need a specific question about a script, or about if I want to do some coding or something like that, I don't have to prompt anymore. I just
How do you do
talk to
that?
the
How do you create these?
in
Is
ChatGPT.
that
You can
is that
create.
something is that something the normal person can do?
I mean,
Like me, when I say
so so
normal,
so
I'm
so
talking
so,
about
so you know
me.
what? You know what's great about this part here, this question, and this you asking me that. That's why we built Vengo AI. I swear. We
Yeah,
built it because we made it easier for people to build their own AI quicker, and in a way that you can use it outside of ChatGPT. You can put it on your website. That's the difference. Now, if you wanted to do that yourself, you can, but you're going to spend about $100,000 and about a year's worth of time
yeah.
to build your own version of it and then put it out on your website. And that's just like baseline. We're not talking like, total plus infrastructure. I mean, Microsoft and Nvidia and OpenAI gave us $300,000. I mean, you want to put in that kind of money and then another 100 grand to build it, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's mind boggling. So yes, you can do it. It will take you time and money and energy, and then it'll be stuck on the GPT ecosystem.
Yeah.
We give it to you where it's simpler to build and you can put it on your website. That's the key difference.
You've worked with a lot of different startups over your journey. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs that maybe might be looking for mentors or advisors? And I guess the first question I probably should ask is, have you ever had any mentors or advisors? Like, how did you grow yourself? Right?
It's a good question. And you're right. You need them. Early on, I was kind of stubborn.
Same.
In my 20s, my 20s, I was like, no, I know how to do everything. I'm going to figure this out. This is really the beginning of social media, the beginning of smartphones, the beginning of apps. They weren't out when I was starting out. I was still a fledgling web guy. So one of the pieces of advice I got from a mentor early on, I was probably just turning, late 20s, early 30s, and they said, you need to start delegating tasks to people. You're doing too many things by yourself. And if you don't delegate tasks to people, you're never going to be able to grow. I was stuck on this notion that I had to control everything, I had to do everything, I had to build everything. And it took me a little while, I admit, to get to the point where I felt comfortable delegating tasks. And when I say a little bit of time, maybe a year, 2 years, maybe even 3, to finally start giving work to people. And in the beginning, I found a lot of mistakes being made and a lot of the work not being what I expected. And then I had to fix it. So I'd go through these bouts of like where I would control the work again and start doing it, and then trying it again with people and going back and forth till I finally found the right people that I worked with that were giving me the right results. And that's when things started to grow and I was able to start building bigger companies. And now I'm managing like 20 employees and they're all doing fantastic work and I don't have to micromanage them. So it does take time to get to that point.
So,
But that's the key bit of advice I'd give, though.
I've said this repeatedly on our shows that the biggest regret I have, I hate looking backwards, but you try to learn from things, right? And so the biggest regret I had, just like you, especially in my 20s, I was so competitive and just so tunnel vision, thinking, I don't need to outsource this. I can do this on my own. I don't need
Yep.
help or advice. We're just going to go, crush everybody and let's run it. And I was on a podcast 2 days ago, and this is a person that's in our Me Plus Ultra mastermind group. And he's watched the interaction. So we do live and virtual. So he's watching the interaction with me and some of the people in the group. And some of these people I now consider my closest friends. And I'm involved in a lot of different businesses that I would have never imagined I'd be involved in. And he asked me, he goes, "Well, how long have you known this person and that person?" I started thinking, I said, "Well, this guy 2 years, this guy 3 years." He's like, "What?" I said,
Seems
"Yeah."
like 20
I
years.
said, I said, "Actually, I'm thinking the more I think about this, other than like two or three people that you've met in this group, I said, I've met all of them in the last 3 to 4 years, 4 years at the longest, because that's, and I would say that these last 4 years have been the happiest, most
Mhm.
productive, most impactful 4 years of my business life.
Amazing.
All because of mentors, advisors, just different strategic alliances, and just it is so much easier to get to where you want to go together than trying to be the individual that thinks they can do everything.
Yeah, 100% agree. You just can't. You'll burn yourself out.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a village, right? You need a whole. There's no I in team. There's so many sayings you can say, and I totally agree. It's the only way to grow, man.
It's it's definitely the easiest, fastest, and most fun. The let's go. Let's switch directions a little bit. Um, Everybody talks about storytelling, and I think every business needs some type of compelling story. Um, I don't know if it's more important for a startup to have a compelling story versus. I think companies that have been around and established a long time, it's probably just as important, especially if they've got to pivot or um, talk about where they came and the challenges and whatever it might be. But how do you craft a story uh, when you're pitching to investors?
Right.
First off, are you using AI?
Um, I guess what I would say in this case is I use AI all day long. I'm not gonna,
I do
hide
too.
that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine living without it at this point. My life would be like back to the Stone Age. There was a day when ChatGPT was down a few, maybe 2 months
Oh,
ago or something. It was one of the worst work days of my life.
or when it acts
I was like,
slow. Sometimes it's you got to wait on the response of the page, and I'm like so used to it.
being fast, yeah. And it's just, I think that what ChatGPT has done for the world or the people using it is they've made us realize that we've been missing this piece of technology our whole lives, and now that we have it, we're hooked, right? We
Yeah.
just can't. It's having a version of yourself just helping you all day long, and it's really hard to give that up.
Yeah.
But the storytelling part is something that I've been doing my whole life. Whether I was writing a book, writing a short story, writing an article, pitching investors, writing a video script, making a movie. It's all about connecting with your audience, connecting with the community around you, connecting with your clients, your customers. You have to connect. And how do you do that? You identify some sort of inkling of an idea or a concept or a pain point, something that people can connect to and tell a story around it. So in the case of Spinnr, we talk about how the pandemic completely demolished friendships and how the US Surgeon General came in and said there's a loneliness epidemic and how our LGBTQ member Tony was able to stop the trolls by coming onto Spinnr and avoiding the negative spam comments and meeting people through his creative squads on our app and being able to collaborate with musicians on different projects. And here's a music video he created with them. So like there's like a story behind like how not just how the app works, what somebody was able to do with it, and that's what you want to really provide people. Don't tell people what your app or your product does. If I created, this wooden totem pole, I'm not going to tell people I crafted it with these little chisels and I made it look really cool and I slaved away under a light at night to really make no. This totem pole, his name is Boom Boom Baba, and he's the money god, and he's going to bring lots of luck to my life. And it brought my friend luck because he just won the lottery.
Yeah.
That's the story you want to tell people, right? You don't
Uh,
want to tell people what you did. It's what happened as the result. And with Vengo AI, it's the same thing. With Vengo AI, I don't tell people like I built this AI platform. That's boring. I want to tell people that Joe Markland, the insurance broker, was getting 1,000 customer inquiries every day. He couldn't handle them. It was bogging his business down. He was losing sales to his competitors. And now he's able to get 80% more customers every day. He's so much happier, spending more times with his kids and his dog and his wife, and spending more time coming up with new ideas for his business rather than dealing with the same customer questions on a daily basis. That's the pain point. That's the problem we're solving, but it's in a way that incorporates a human aspect to it.
Yeah. No, I love that. And man, sales 101. Quit talking features, right?
Yeah, no.
Talk the benefit. And yeah, but you're
Uh,
hiking it back emotionally, right? You're doing it through storytelling, and which is even more appealing and easier to keep their interest. So I love that. Um, you mentioned something throughout that answer, and you use the word connect.
yeah.
So I think there is a there are people out there that worry that I'm going to lose the connection I have with my client. I'm going to lose this human interaction. The more AI automates things, like for instance, I can't handle the client you had mentioned earlier, where they couldn't handle all the requests, which kind of gave you the direction to pivot your company, right? How do you answer that for the people that are sitting there saying, I still want a human connection and interaction because the relationship has to be formed? How do I forge deeper, stronger relationships with my clients if AI is doing more of the tasks?
Eh, like I said before, I don't think AI should replace anyone or anything, right? It really shouldn't. It should be an added bonus.
Yeah.
So when my team talks to my AI to get answers they need for things, it doesn't end there. It actually begins there. So what I like to say is AI is the beginning of a conversation and the start of a relationship with someone. In the case of a client, let's say, let's talk about Next Level Capital, that is a financial services company, and a customer's talking to their AI. They need a loan for their business and they need some preliminary information, like how much can I get? My business is a brick and mortar store with 10 employees. How can I get to 50 employees? Yada, yada. It's going to do some math. It's going to help it out, figure out that beginning stage. But then once customer X knows what he or she wants, well, now I want to book a meeting with you to really kind of get into the nitty gritty and let's get this going. That's when the AI kind of lets go of it and says, okay, here's the calendar link, book a schedule, book a meeting, and you're going to talk to the owner of Next Level Capital to really get things to the next level. And that's the same thing that happens to me when people talk to my AI or any other customer AI. I think it really is a way to, you ever call a customer service company company and talk to customer service, and then eventually you say, I need to talk to a manager. It's kind of like that, right? The customer service
Usually
rep.
at least 3 out of every 10 calls.
Yeah. So let's just say 10 out of 10 calls, right? 10
Yeah.
out of 10 calls, you're talking to a customer service rep, and you get the preliminary information and they get your information. They put the notes in, and then, okay, I need to talk to a manager. Then they put the person on, and then you get to really talk to a person. That's really what I think AI is really good for, at least right now. It's a
Yeah.
good customer service thing to get you to the CEO or the owner or the sales rep,
Right.
but then by that time, that CEO or sales rep doesn't have to go through those 50 preliminary questions. They already went through it. So now it's like,
Right.
okay, what color wall do you want?
Right.
Red,
You
it
get to
says in
talk
the
about
notes
what's
here.
important. Right.
Yeah, let's get you 5,000 square feet. Okay, I'll be over there tomorrow. What time's good for you? 2 p.m. I'll see you tomorrow. Click. They can get to the next customer, right? They can go order those parts they need instead of dealing with like the minutia.
Let's talk about understanding. Everything you're talking about goes to understanding your target market, right? Your
Yeah.
AI tools are only going to be as successful as understanding your market. You're only going to be able to communicate even your compelling story. Like you even mentioned that, I think, right out of the gate on that question, understanding who you're talking to so you can have a compelling story. So you got to understand your market. How do you go about identifying your ideal, in your case, users, or in anybody's vertical, customers or clients?
That's one of the first things I tell people to do is it's validating your concept, identifying your market. They go hand in hand. And the best way to do that is to identify the market before you really build anything. Now, in my case, I thought I identified the market with the consumer web app that we built for Vengo because that's what people were asking for. But then we found out that that really wasn't quite it. So we had to pivot, like you said, and build for the B2B market, which was fine. We had already had the infrastructure built and it was just a matter of changing the interface or whatnot. But the point is, by showing people maybe some mock-ups, you can use Figma or Canva or Photoshop to make some mock-ups of a physical product that you want to build or a web app that you want to build or something, and then show people physically, like, here's what I want to build. Here are the screens, swipe, swipe, swipe. What do you think of this? What do you know, how do you like it? And then what I always tell people to do is the best way to capture that information is a Typeform or SurveyMonkey survey that's free. 5 questions. Don't make it long. Quick. You know, what do you think of this app on a scale of 1 to 5? Boom. What feature did you like the most? A, B, C, or D? What feature would you like to see next? A, B, C, or D? How much would you spend on that feature? A, B, C, or, you know, 199, 299, et cetera. And the last one would be like, would you use this app if I launched it tomorrow on a scale of 1 to 10? And then you get that information, and the questions can change. I'm just giving some examples. And you take that information, and let's say you ask 100 people that you do not know, not friends and family, and they're not biased, right? 100 random people, and then you get that data. The data will not lie to you. Once again, we go back to that whole thing. Data will not lie. That's how you validate it. And then those 100 people, now 80% like everything about it. You should start building an MVP, not the whole thing, just a minimum viable product.
Talk to us, just in case there's people out there that don't know what you're talking about here. What do you mean when you say that?
Yeah, so an MVP, and it's not a basketball or football MVP, it's a minimum viable product, right? Minimum viable product meaning you build the most minimum amount of product. So if you're building, once again, if you're building this totem pole, you don't want to carve it out of wood. You want to get a 3D printer and print it real quick and show people, do you guys like this totem pole? Yeah. Now I'll go carve them by hand and make them really nice. If they don't like them, then don't do it. You just saved all that time and money. Same with the software, especially because software can become years and years and years worth of building. Build the most core value proposition that you have. So what's the main feature that people are going to want in your app or your platform? That's the one you build. Let people play with it. Now so let's go through the cycle. 100 people said they liked it. You give them now something to play with, something basic, nothing major. And they like, okay, now you're getting feedback that they really like this thing, this funky widget thing that you built. But we really want to see this, and this in order to make it useful. Now you have feedback.
Right.
So you take that feedback and you iterate, put that into the build. Now you build on top of the foundational, core value proposition, and you start building 2 or 3 more features on top, a login, a profile, whatever. And now they say, okay, now I have this cool feature and a login and a profile, and now I can share it with my friends. And now it's useful. What else do you need? Now you have 500 people testing it because you started getting more people. Now the 500 people say they want this feature. And you keep doing that for 1,000 people, 5,000 people, and 10,000 people. You don't want to grow too fast, and there's a reason why. Every growth spurt you get will come with scalability problems and bugs and issues. And you won't know what those are until you hit those bigger numbers. And I'm telling you, it happens every single time. You can't go from 1,000 to 1 million users. You just cannot. Your platform will completely just crash. So that's why you want to go in stages.
If you were raising money for a startup or for some type of new product or service, what do you think, I guess, is the key to successfully attracting the right people, because it's not just about getting the right money. It's not just about getting the money, right? It's about getting the right money, the right investors. What's the best way to do that?
If you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, just be in California with a really good idea, a good PowerPoint presentation, and they throw money at you for no reason.
Yeah.
If you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, build something that has a couple of customers, has a little bit of revenue, or has a decent amount of users on a consumer app. Now, I would say you need everything. You need a really good platform. You need a lot of customers, a lot of revenue, a lot of users for consumer, a lot of public, perception, a lot of press and media, a lot of attention, a really good team. And even if you have all of that, investors are still risk averse. They just are. They've been pushed AI for the last, 24 months.
Yep.
So they're just kind of AI, they're exhausted about that. Consumer apps don't even bother. Just don't bother. Don't bother building anything in terms of like dating apps or like social networking apps, or, just don't do it, because they're not going to invest and you're going to be sitting there for years. You have to go, unfortunately, I hate saying this, but you really have to go with a B2B SaaS kind of model, something that
Yep.
can generate revenue. So what do people have to do to get investors to give them money? You have to make money. And what I'm hearing from investors, and I pitch investors all the time. At first I was hearing like, oh, as long as you have like, 5,000 in a month in revenue, then you're good to go. We'll give you money. Now I'm hearing you need 300,000 a year minimum to really make them want to give you money. That's 25,000 a month. It's not a lot, but it's enough that it's hard to get that many customers. We need 50 customers paying about 500 a month. We have 14 right now. Yeah. So for us to go from 14 to 50, we need funding in order to get the customers, because we need more salespeople, right? So it's this really big chicken and the egg situation that we're in. And I think a lot of people are seeing this in the market right now. And so I think you got to just focus on getting customers. Really, that's all it really comes down to. And the other thing investors really want, and this is the key thing, if anybody listening to this or watching this can take home from this, find a lead investor, find a VC who believes in your product, who believes in you. Because if you get a VC or a big investor to believe in you and believe in your product, and they're willing to lead the round, all the other investors will come to that round. All of them.
That's exactly right. Let them do the heavy lifting, but you gotta find it. And that goes right back to finding the right one, right? You gotta find the right one. If
it was easy, everybody would do it. But it's not easy.
We've talked, especially early on, about how diverse your journey's been in terms of all the different stuff. But if you had to like really pinpoint like the one lesson on this journey that's really shaped your business career, that's had the biggest impact, right? Or what was the biggest lesson on this journey for you?
Oh, there's so many.
Why?
I don't want to sound cliche, but it's going to sound cliche because it's the truth in my life, is that out of all and you said you don't like looking at the past, but I happen to be one of those people who does like to look at the past on a regular basis.
In other words, I don't like to look at it and be like, oh, I wish I would have done. I like to look at it and be like, man, if I had done this, and so I don't make the same mistakes moving forward.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I like to do that, but I also like to reminisce and think about the good times I had, the people that I met, the lessons that I learned. And out of all of those things, I think the piece that really has stuck with me since day one, it's a three-parter. It's motivation, determination, and persistence, right? Which I guess culminates into a don't give up statement, which is cliche, but a lot of people give up too quick. A lot of people think that they're going to succeed overnight because they see it in the news that XYZ company just raised $100 million, or they got bought by Google for $1 billion. Meta just bought them for $3 billion, and they're like, oh, I can do that. I'm like, no, you can't, because 50,000 other companies failed that year where the one got the $1 billion. It's a lottery ticket type of situation. And those people that sold that company previously worked for PayPal or Google or something. So they graduated from Stanford and they had big VCs.
Yeah, everyone acts like it's a 1 or 5 year overnight success type thing. No, they put in their 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
it finally happens for me, it'll be that 30-year that it
that's
took me to
right.
get to that point, not one. Yeah, that's people don't get that. I've been doing this for 30 years
Yeah.
and I'm just about getting to that point finally. So, you know, it's you can't give up. You cannot give up. You have to just push through those hard days, and if you think it's not going to work, you got to find a way to make it work.
Hmm.
You just do. And if it's not working, don't beat that dead horse. Find a
Right.
thoroughbred, pivot your company, and go get back in the race. You know, keep going. You can't just give up. Giving up isn't going to do anything. Wars weren't won by giving up. You know, people had to fight to get to the finish line. You know.
You said something early on in this answer that you gave me. And so every night I journal, and I've got a personal mission statement, right? And so I'm writing,
Nice.
what did I do today that aligns with my personal mission statement? What didn't I do and why? Right? I write that, and I write what I'm grateful for. But when you said you like to look back and reminisce, so I'm writing it on the spot. But you then said you followed it up with, I also look back and see like to think about what I learned.
Yeah.
One thing I'm going to add to this journal entry every night: what did I learn today?
Yep.
I, I,
100%.
because I think it's great to go back and look at these journals because I'll keep them filed, right? But I'm going to add that
Well,
every
you know
night.
what's
What did I
that?
learn today? Because if I didn't learn something today,
You
I
didn't
don't
do
know
it
if
right.
that gets me. Doesn't get me. It doesn't
And
align with my personal mission statement.
And the reason why what I had said to you, my answer matters, is because of what you said earlier about storytelling. The easiest way to become a good storyteller is to do that. It's to
Yeah,
think about the stories and the experiences that you went through in your life so that you can tap into them.
yeah,
Every time I talk to people, I can give them an example of something. Well, oh yeah, in 2004 I did this. In 2006 this happened to me. In 2008 I did that. Oh, in 2009 don't do that because in 2009 I tried that, it didn't work. Right? So it's all about like keeping those things fresh in your mind, like you said, so you learn from them, but also so that you can tell people like this is a real world example. I'm not telling you some, some opinion. This is a
yeah.
fact of something that happened in my life.
Well, and by writing it down, you're using different, you're not just using one sense, you're using multiple senses, which helps
Yep.
you retain better, right? It's almost like, I don't know if you've ever cheated on a test back in the school days. All right. But,
Everyone's copied off somebody at one point.
but if you ever like wrote down what you thought the answers were going to be, like all the little something you were sneaking into class, I realized and some teachers, especially in like college, they would let you
Yeah, they let you
bring
bring
in
stuff in.
well, I found by me creating that, I was like, well, son of a bitch, now I know it.
Yeah, because you have to remember what it was that you wrote
I'm
down.
writing it down. I'm looking it up. I'm like, well, hell, I don't need the sheet now. But so writing it down helps you retain. And like you
Yes,
just said, it's easier to tap into those and create compelling stories that way. So, man,
100%.
awesome thing here. Let me ask you a question real quick. Last one.
Sure.
If people want to reach out to you, what's the easiest way they can get a hold of you?
If they go to my website at jasonsherman.org, all my socials are at the bottom. They can talk to my AI on the website. They can check out all my offerings and services for sure.
Man, especially you were talking a lot about Vengo AI. I can tell you, I'm gonna check that one out when I get off of here, because I know I don't want to spend the time creating my own GPT. So,
Yeah.
but I am interested in what you were talking about in that point of our discussion, and I'm like, I literally wrote down in my notes. I'm like, all right, check that out as soon as we get off the show.
Yeah, what's cool is we launched the original version this year, and now we're just about to launch the new version, which is completely brand new self-serve. The old one was still kind of we had to help you with it.
Yep,
Now it's we're about a week or two away from launching the self-serve platform, so we're excited.
that's awesome. All right, Jason. Can't thank you enough. Great conversation. Appreciate
Absolutely.
you joining us today, sharing your incredible insights on how technology can be leveraged to solve real world challenges. Uh, it helped me. So, yeah, I say this a lot of times on here too. If it helped me, I assume it helped the rest of the audience. Uh, everyone's got to be like me, right? But for those listening or watching, if you want to dive deeper into Jason's work and you want to learn more about his platforms, whether it's Spinnr or Vengo AI, um, visit jasonsherman.org. Make sure you do that today. And also, if you're looking us up on meplusultra.com, we'll have it in the show descriptions and we'll have it linked there to make it easy for people to get to you as well.
Sweet.
But you can find his books there, Strap On Your Boots, his podcast, his courses, all designed to help entrepreneurs succeed. So go over there and do that. And don't forget, if you want to find an easy way to get to him, make sure you subscribe to meplusultra.com and check out our Me Plus Ultra network on YouTube for more interviews, valuable business insights. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in to Business Bourbon and Cigars, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.